Tobago. Welcome to a special edition of Scoreboard here on ACTN. And today we're going to be talking to the Director of Sports at the University of the West Indies, Ms. Grace Jackson. And we are in her office, and I must say I'm very comfortable here. Ms. Jackson, it's a pleasure. Welcome to ACTN.
Thank you very much.
I hope that after this interview you will tune into our station from whenever you get that time, because we have a lot of interesting things that we highlight.
It's sports.
Yes.
It's me.
Yeah, okay.
So it's not a problem.
First of all, let me say welcome to Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you.
And just about 9 months on the job so far, because you were here, you got appointed sometime in September of 2017.
Right, I started at the beginning of the very first working day in October.
Right.
So it's...
How, before you get into your career and things like that, how has that been for you?
It has been great. You know, as somebody that has been in sport for just about all my working life, you're really moving from one platform to another. I come with particular type of experience from the Mona campus, and coming here, it was something that I was looking forward to when I was asked, because there are things that you already have built here that I had a vision of where it could go. So it was exciting, you know, coming here and saying, this is the place I've always looked at, and you know, all of these wonderful things that can happen. And the growth is exponential here. I mean, there's just so many things that you can do. And I'm learning so much in terms of my own personality, and the fact that I am seeing things in my personality that I'm able to bring out. You know, I think that I'm a change agent, and I'm learning that more and more, how it affects, and I think that the platform that's here is really ripe for my own engagement and seeing other persons develop into persons that they might have thought of but just did not believe, and how do we get them to believe that they can be the best at what they do. And so it's engaging.
Well, I know we'll get back to the vision that you have for here.
Right.
Let's talk a bit about Grace Jackson, 1988 silver medalist in the Seoul Olympics, Sportswoman of the Year, Jamaica, 2 occasions. You were given the Order of Distinction by the government, a huge achievement.
Yes.
How did this all come about, you know, you getting involved with track?
Well, I have a very strange story. That if I was to write a book, you'd probably think it's fiction. I grew up in a family of close brethren, Plymouth brethren, where you were not allowed to do things with persons external. You know, they were Whirlians, and so the things that you did would be inside, not the church, but the meeting, because that's what we had, meetings. I was a very regular churchgoer, 3 times a day on Sundays and almost every day of the week. I was a very tomboyish type of girl. You know, I climbed trees, I played with my brother, and I was from very poor circumstances. And so my active lifestyle of playing was really written when I went to high school, and that's when I was first introduced now to track and field, because in primary school I was playing baseball, dandy shandy, you know, skip rope, that kind of thing. And in going to the Queen's School, I was then introduced to these very types of events in track and field. I played netball, I played hockey, and I made a real attempt to swim, but wasn't very successful. And it was in track I started long jumping, and you know, the talent clearly was there. I was very skinny, and I was very short. I was like the second one in, you know, we'd line up in the class, and I was like the second one from the front. And within 1 year, I went from the second one from the front to the second one at the back. And so therefore, my legs just grew really tall in the summer, and I started high jumping. And so I moved, kind of made a switch, and, you know, doing both high jump and long jump, and just started showing talent. I mean, my high jumping, it wasn't the Fosbury flop at that time. It really was the what we call the Western roll. You know, you kind of go over the bar face down and over. and we dropped in sand. We didn't go on high jump bags, and,
Okay.
and that's really back in the day.
Yeah.
And that's how I started. I mean, I started in high school, and then my mother said, you can't go and represent the school. So I think in Trinidad you said that's Bacchanal started.
Yeah. Bacchanal started.
Yeah,
now.
right.
Yeah.
So there was a toss, back and forth as to, the plea with my mother. My friends went, pleaded with her, and, she listened to everybody quite nicely and politely and said no. So my first Carifta Games, when, I continued to compete, and a little bit of disobedience there. And my first Carifta Games, it wasn't my mother's permission that I got there in Bahamas. It was a combination of my sisters and my brother, and putting things together, signing the Nestor form, searching searching the grip to find everything, and went, and I placed second in the high jump then. I don't remember the name of the young lady from Bahamas who we jumped the same height, but of course, as someone just starting, I didn't, starting at a regular height made the difference. And I think that was the genesis of my career in track and field. I was also playing netball at the same time.
But your mother knew that you...
She didn't know that I went at the time. And when I came back, it's the story is
too long.
Yeah, it's very detailed. But the truth of the matter is, when I came back and I was getting a ride home, I was very worried that she would have been at the airport waiting for me and just embarrassing me and letting everybody know that I really did not have permission. But she didn't do that. I got a ride home. I asked them to drop me about 2 houses down so that, there would not be any kind of discussion with her. And she just never spoke about it until I got my scholarship. When I got my scholarship when I was finishing in high school and got my scholarship to Alabama A&M, my brother then came in and says, well, all of this was worth something because now I'm about to go and get my education. And then I went away for my scholarship for 4 years at Alabama, and then I went and paid for my master's degree at Queens College while I became a professional runner. So I was in Atoms Track Club at the time. So it has been a great journey.
Yes.
I don't think I would have known about track had I not been in Jamaica, because I would have probably been playing around. But the way track is delivered in Jamaica in the school system, sports, not just track, sports, because I played hockey for Queens as well, and I played netball. I got an ultimatum of whether I was going to choose track or netball when I made the squad to play for one of the junior teams, and I respectfully chose track, and I just felt that it had more life, and here I am, the ability to have been able to go to college free, my first degree, use my track career to pay for my second and third degree, and being able to apply it now from a perspective as a coach sometimes, but also as an administrator and a visionary for the sport.
Now you represented Trinidad
Jamaica.
Jamaica.
Yes.
At the 1988 Olympics.
I did.
Tell me about your experience.
Well, that would have been my third Olympics. Okay. The dramatic one was, that would have been my second Olympics. The dramatic one was the first one in Los Angeles, my first Olympic Games. I had just hit the international scene in '83 for the World Athletic Championships. And that was an eye-opener for me, because when I looked around at some of my colleagues, they looked so masculine. I was like, is this really where I'm going to be, positioned? But I had an impact in '83 in Helsinki at the World Championships. When I was able to place 5th. And, never in the world that I imagined that I would have been able to go to my first World Games after coming from high jump and long jump to be able to place 5th. But I had a good coach, a dedicated coach in New York, and just the attitude, the work ethics. When we were warming up, I felt that was the workout. And they said, oh, no, that's just warm up. We now have to work out. So, the learning experience, the learning curve was really very, very good. After the Helsinki experience, then came Los Angeles. I remember Pauline Davis was very young. I always remember Pauline because she was very young and she was running very well. And Bahamas was talking about how she could beat me. And that's when I recognized my competitive instinct. And I really rose to the occasion. I mean, whether I could run a good 200 or not, I did. I ran my 11:22, which was good enough to have made the finals. And turned out that my first Olympics, I ended up running in 4 finals. I had tragedy. In my 4x1, we dropped the baton. They changed the first leg runner to Juliet, and then so the handover for Juliet to me just did not happen, and it was just tragic because we really could have gotten a medal. And Merlene was upset. We were both supposed to run the 4x4. Merlene decided she wasn't going to do it. The old faithful Grace said yes, okay, I'll do it. And I cried the entire time. I cried in the room leading up to the 4x4. And I calmed myself and I got the baton. I think it's 3rd leg I ran. And I went out and tears, when I hit the spot where the baton dropped, tears came again. And so it was a dramatic 1984. But what it did is inspired me to work at a different level. With the objective of coming away with a medal from the Olympic Games. And 1987, I was not put on the team to the World Championships. And that put me in another mode and made me work even harder. And I worked really, really hard in 88. I straightened hills. I ran hills like they were flat after a while. I mean, we had a training group. Merlene was initially with the training group, and then she left. Innocent Egmaniki was there. And let me tell you, at that level, that's what we did. I mean, when training was regular, track training was finished, we would spend another 2 hours at the track doing the post work, whether it is the sit-ups, the push-ups. And I had a lot of males around me, and so, I was always trying to beat them.
Yeah, so it pushes you more.
Absolutely. Yeah. So by the time Seoul came around, I was ready mentally. I had an accident before I got to Europe that year. I was living and training in Los Angeles with Don Quarry, and we just been super careful. So I'd gone and put away stuff at the post office box, and I'm like, okay, the light was yellow. No, I'm not going through. And I stopped, and the light turned green, and I took my time, and I said, let me go through. And I just felt a car hitting the car, and I was like, oh my goodness. The first thing I did was to grab my legs. I was like, are my legs okay? I know my neck was hurting me. I was like, are my legs okay? The car was spun around 180 degrees, so I was facing the direction I was coming back, and I couldn't move. All I could think of is, I'm on my way to Europe. Are my legs okay? Okay, my legs were okay. As long as I could stand up and move, it was okay. Kind of got into a little panic. I then called Don Quarry, and they kind of came down and got me, and we stopped by the doctor. We were on our way to the airport, and I was just packing to leave. Kathy Rattray and myself were together. And we stopped by the doctor, and I got a neck brace and went in the plane. They have 2 levels of the plane. We were upstairs. And I sat on the floor most of the time when I could, and worked on trying to massage my neck and get it straight, because I was going straight to a track meet in Lausanne. And got there, took off the neck brace, got some treatment, and ran one of my best times for the season. Okay. That's a psychological readiness that you get, because we had trained so well. And so I knew I was ready for the season. And the rest was history. I mean, I had lots of great performances in Europe that year. And I remember hearing that Valerie Hooks had said, she's not going to last until Seoul. She's going to be tired. Well, no, I was not. My body was prepared to do the long haul.
But what was the motivational factor to drive you to this, want to be the best?
I think when you go out there, it's training is really hard, and track can be really boring. So to go out there and do it, you really have to want to do it. There's a thing about anything worth doing is worth doing well, and so you start to do it. When you lose, it agitates you. It agitates you. And so, you know, you say to yourself, and in anything you do, you say, but I could be better than that. And intrinsically, you say, no, I want to be better than that. One of my driving forces going into 88, though, I think it was in 87, I sat and watched Butch Reynolds do the world record in the 400 meters. And in his television conversation, he talked about, he lent us something that those of us who could borrowed it and used it. He said that he had on his wall this world record time, and he wanted to run this world record, and that was his motivation. Okay. I took that line from him, and what I did in Los Angeles, it was, remember I said in 87, I did not go to the World Championships. And I got someone to do, you know, that old computer paper where they have the holes at the top and the bottom. And I had them do for me 21.71, my goal to achieve. I put it up in the wall in my room, and it was something that I saw. Now, all this time I'd started meditation. I had been I read a lot of books. I read a lot of, you know, books that, you know, spoke to, you know, positiveness, etc. And you know, relaxation, because I'd get very nervous to run a 400. But every day I would see this thing. It became part of my subconscious. It became part of me. This 21.71 every day in 19.
Seeing it.
Yeah, seeing it was just became a part of me. So it was in my subconscious. So therefore, the things that I did in practice tied back to that visual element that I had. And every day for that year, 1988, I ran for about 20 minutes. There was an earthquake in Los Angeles one morning, my first. I think it was like 7.1 or 6.1. I don't really remember the number. And I was like, oh, what am I supposed to do here? Ooh. And I hear people hustle and bustle. And then, you know, kind of a little while, I just snuck out, went to the field. It was okay. And I went and did my 20 minutes. I was very, very dedicated to that. It was consistency that I was developing as part of my delivery. Even when I had training twice a day, I'd go in the morning and run. Because what that did for me was something different. I could think about my competitors. I knew who they were. They were Gwen, there were Evelyn, there was Merlene, there was, you know, these persons that they were always running faster than me. How could they run 22.15 just like and didn't breathe? And I'd run 22.6 and, you know, it would have been more difficult. And so they were in my psyche when I did those 20 minutes. So I would position myself at different points, you know, depending on whether you're having a good feeling or you're just slouchy and you're just doing it because you need to do it. Of course, on the slouchy days, you had longer runs because you're running for 20 minutes, so the 20 minutes would feel longer the slower you ran. But what was consistent, though, was the fact that I could run and beat them. I would be behind them. I would plan my strategy while I was running those 20 minutes. And I think that prepared me quite a bit for Seoul.
Okay. I know we need to take a short break. When we come back, we'll touch a bit about your vision for the UWI campus. Okay. Okay, viewers, we are talking to Grace Jackson, Director of Sports at the University of West Indies. We'll be right back after this short break.
We, from those encounters together, and this was a North-South game to open the season.
So the team might be playing well, as we always say with Trinidad and Tobago.
Futsal did that great for me.
Okay, hey everybody. Welcome to another edition of Field of Dreams on ACTN. My name is Steve David. I'm your host.
Welcome everyone to another edition of Football 101.
Half season and things are looking gloomy for Madrid.
Is a Chelsea fan.
I only know one side of Manchester and it's red. I don't know about any blue side.
Yes, I'm an Arsenal fan.
That's very unfortunate.
I love you, Messi.
mic on and say thanks for.
No! What day you not?
We bring the field directly to your home.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to another edition of Scoreboard here on ACT, and it's always a pleasure to be in your company every Tuesday evening between the hours of 8 and 9. Welcome back, viewers. Grace, we heard so much of your career, and definitely you had an outstanding career because you came back. You also won a gold medal before by...
At World Cup.
At the World, that's the World Championships.
That's the World Cup.
World Cup.
World Cup. That's when they actually, yes. That's when the world record was done in the 400 by the East German. Right. The Americas I was part of the 4x4 team that won that year. Yeah.
So looking back, you would say that you had a very successful track career.
I did. I think I ran at just about every level. Mm-hmm. I didn't go to the Pan Am Games. I was injured during the time of the Pan Am Games, but I ran Carifta. I jumped Carifta. I ran in the Central American Games. I did Commonwealth Games. So I went up the ladder, and I had 3 Olympic Games, which I made the final of every event that I competed in. So that showed levels of consistency, and didn't get a medal in the World Championships. I finished 5th, and I wasn't part of that relay that year. So that is it.
You took part in track. You did your studies, educated yourself. Would you admit that sometimes our sportsmen and women focus too much on the sport itself and not the life after sports, that we seldom see, people coming out and after the sports, they're struggling to get a job, they don't have anything to fall back on.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is so. I think what happens with that is, who are you around? What are the objectives of the people that you choose, because you choose them? Your coach is a choice, because even if you start when you're younger with someone, you get to a stage in your life that you can make a decision as to whether this is what you want or you want to go somewhere. If you don't know where where you want to go, then you have to find out. This is life. I mean, if you weren't doing sport and you're doing something else, you graduate from high school, what it is you do. You don't sit down and wait on somebody to tell you. You say, this is where I want to go. So the individuals have a responsibility as they grow, because when they're young, they're told things and they live with what they have at a young age. But as you get to the decision-making times, when you come to crossroads many times in your lives, and so you have to make these decisions. And what are these decisions? Is this where I want to be? Am I comfortable? Where do I want to go? Those are some of the decisions that I had to make. I got the scholarship to go to university. I got my first degree. I then had to make a decision at the end of that, that where was I going to go? I went to a system where I could continue college and I could run professionally. And let me tell you why I think that is important. There's a balance you need in life. When you're running, you really get frustrated with the person's working with you. Whether it's a coach, you really want to get upset and quarrel on the coach because you're doing your best and they are just... Yeah. And you're around that person all the time. What is your balance? How do you balance that? If you don't have a home life where that a nurturing setting is there, then what is? And so you have to balance it with something. So for some of us, and for me in particular, I use the academics, because graduate school wasn't easy. But when the challenge of graduate school got me, I went out on the track. And when I was sick of my coach, which would happen from time to time, I poured into these challenging circumstances for my master's. And so it really worked, and it was a it's good to have the spaces, because the truth of the matter is that you make a commitment to your coach that's working with you, because you give in to say, this person is guiding me in a direction in which I want to go. And of course, it depends on how you coach. If you sit down and have that discussion before, which is what I do with persons whom I coach, I sit down with them and say, what is it that you want to achieve? I don't let them give me the pie in the sky, because then I ask more questions. So you really have to ask the right questions to see, because then the next statement is, well, are you committed to doing this? And so you have to make that commitment. So that commitment means if you're going to cry when you get the workout that you need to do to achieve that particular objective, then you're just going to have to cry.
Yes.
Because you have made that commitment, because that question is going to come up. Remember, the decision is yours. You can walk away anytime. But if you want to be the best, being the best takes different things, your characteristics, staying the course to the direction, and getting up every single time when you fall. You don't have a choice in that.
No excuses.
No excuses. No excuses whatsoever. And so you have to stay that course. And that balance for me with academics and track was what I think helped me, because track training can be really, really difficult. And setting the goals, you really have to, if you don't know, you don't have to know early enough. But along the journey, you even have to set mini goals so that at some point you can know where you're going. And you also have to know, in the event something happens, what happens to you? What happens next? And so I was very clear that if something happened to me that I could not perform on the track anymore,
you have something to fall
back
on.
And I actually used to visualize it. If I had an accident or something that was no fault of mine, and I had to be in a wheelchair, what would I do? I had to answer that question. What would I do? Could I do anything else? Or was track and field exclusively my life? Right? And so I had to then answer that question by ensuring that I was prepared to be able to do something else, whatever it was going to be.
I purposely asked you that question because I've seen it already, live experience, where, both sportsmen and women, they spend all these years in the track, didn't go through and get a proper education or some work experience, and after the sport has ended, you see them struggling to get by, and I don't think it's right. I mean, you cannot blame the system, you have to blame yourself, because I mean, you choose to represent your country in whatever sport you wanted, but at the same time, you could have chosen to better yourself education-wise.
That's right.
But I just wanted to get your views on that.
Yeah, but the struggle is real, even for when you have an education. I must tell you, it's been an interesting post-journey, and going into the working world, because you are rejected. Because in the Caribbean, I don't know necessarily in North America, but in the Caribbean, you're rejected because people don't see you as their equal in the office, because you are a runner, and the perception is that you don't know anything.
Yes.
Right? And so it is hard when you're not prepared. But even when you're prepared,
it's still hard.
It is difficult. And there is a sort of, yeah, but it's not a real degree. You go to America, it's not a real degree. That was my experience. I mean, and I remember when I was part of the National Association, I would talk about, can we create a system to be able to engage athletes who finished their careers, and there was a kind of, they make plenty of money, so it's okay. It's a disregard and a lack of understanding of the value that sports people bring, not only to the workplace, but to your communities and to your countries. There's a great misunderstanding. There is a negative connotation that is put to it. The only time they really like the people is when they want to take a picture and they want to say, I'm associated with these people. But when they're to come in and say, well, can I inform, where we're going, there's a major rejection in that area. So it is difficult either way. So it is easier to be prepared so that you can at least try and do something. But I mean, in the environment of work, it is not acceptable because the people around you see you as an athlete and that's what they think you are. And they don't equate athleticism to the same thing that they do in the workplace, right? But the experience that one brings from going out there is actually greater than the experience that many people that sit in offices have. And the resilience that an athlete brings to the workplace is much, much greater than those who sit in there. The tolerance level is higher. The discipline, the pushing through to achieve goals, just so many things that persons who have been in sports bring to the table that are advantageous to companies that they can't see. In North America, they're seeing it a lot more, and there are people that really, they engage athletes. Even if they don't have degrees, they engage them because they bring something to the company that motivates. And you notice a new word in business now, they talk about people are coaches, right? They're coaching their employees because what it is that they want similar results to what athletes give. Yes. And so resistance to you in the workplace is very, very big with athletes because there's a perception that they are bright because they have gone to school, but you're not so bright because you were doing sports. And so we need to be able to understand that. I think for our growth, particularly in the Caribbean, we need to be able to understand that and break that chain. We need to be able to engage our athletes, in different levels, because you have different levels in which they can come in, engage them in a different way, right? And then you eliminate now what you spoke about, because I also have that discussion, the need for the athletes to believe that you ought to be doing this for them because they have done this representation, because that exists too. Yes. There are persons who, it's a level of entitlement. That, well, I'm entitled to this because I did this. I represented the country. Yeah. I don't necessarily think it's an entitlement. I just think there is a lack of appreciation in terms of what is the value and who are these persons that are brought in. What is the role that these persons can play in the growth of your respective sports? I can give you an example of what I see going on in USA track and field. They call them the alumni. And when they have these games, they have a number of persons, not everybody, because everybody doesn't have the same talent, but they have a number of former athletes who are going to the major meets, who are motivating from the junior meets up to even the meets that are senior meets, and a part of a motivation, selling the concept about this is the American team and this is how we are. And these people, they don't come to do anything else. They don't have a name to be manager. That those who can be aren't there, but they are just there as part of a team support to support the team and just tell them simple things. You can win. Yes. You understand? The Caribbean could have better performances, and we soon come to talk about Trinidad, because an acceptance of mediocrity does not fester or give growth. When you accept where you are, your likelihood of growth is going to be very lean.
Okay. Now let's talk a bit about the vision that you spoke about, because I know that you said earlier that St. Augustine has much more than what you left at Mona.
Yes.
In what terms in sports, and what can we expect from Grace Jackson when your tenure is up here what would you like to accomplish?
That's a loaded question.
Yes.
I think of myself as a visionary. St. Augustine has a number of things that's going for them. They're an engineering campus. And how have we tapped into that with sports? They're a campus that have this entire area that's fenced off that they call sports, and they have an indoor complex that every other section of the campus seems to want to use. And my question has always been, why don't I see more athletes using this fantastic indoor facility that Dr. Gludon has worked so hard to build? Why are they not more engaged? I mean, when we came here to the campus, look, at 8 o'clock at night, the place is empty. I mean, we have half the size of the gym without, the kind of seating. And up to 11 o'clock at night, we have students in a gym. I mean, and so that was always my question. You look outside and you see a fantastic cricket pitch. The World Cup comes around and they get the best cricket pitch. They have outdoor courts. They have a great grass track and don't even understand the value of a great grass track. One that Usain Bolt train on at the UWI Mona. And so you kind of have an area. You have a small swimming pool, yes, but you have a fantastic tennis court. You have the goods. You have the goods. The question is, what is happening in terms of how are you nurturing your competitive element of what you have, right? You have created elements of the academic structure which currently exists across the university. And now we have gotten this fantastic opportunity in 40 years to have a new faculty of sport, which is what we refer to as a virtual faculty because it's all across the campuses. And each campus has an academy. And so the St. Augustine Academy, I would say for sports, of sports, the vision is quite unique. One is an engagement of the entire campus. We must do wellness. We must have a well campus. If we have a well campus, then we have an engaged campus, meaning you're not just talking about the 18,000 students that are coming here. What are we offering them? Just generally every day, how do they become a part of the system? How do we help the stress management of what happens with these students? What is the role that sports is going to play for that? But what about the workers? I mean, what about the staff? Staff gets frustrated too over challenges because there are external challenges that you can't control. But what can you control? How do you can control how you see things, right? How do you see things? How do you manage the challenges that you're faced with? Do you roll over and says, well, I can't do it, or do you find alternatives? I truly believe that our role here within sports is to be able to help the rest of the campus to be able to do just that. Thank goodness, we have been given the job to be able to roll out the wellness program, which we have started, both with students and staff. So we are looking at engaging more what I would call recreational activities that can be offered to the students. You have a large number of students. You're not going to reach everybody, but what you must do is have offerings that the student can know that they have a choice.
That's right, yes.
Right? We have the facilities to offer these different things. They engage themselves by doing things themselves through the Guild of Students, etc. But what do we have to offer? How do we guide? Those are some of the things that we have to do. And then when you look at the competitive side now, they have been least competitive in major competitions across the campus, which is like, first the inter-campus games and now what we call the UWI games. They have stuck on three within the three campuses. My vision is that three needs to be straightened out, right, as we move forward. So therefore we need to build a nice, strong, competitive program so that there's a sense of self-esteem, but also there's a drive to see, can I make the national teams? How can we do that? How can we facilitate that, making national teams, bringing back the pride. I mean, I come here, Jehu Gordon has been out of the belly of this system here.
Yes.
I don't see a picture of Jehu around. I have to engage Jehu because I have invited Jehu when I'm outside of this country to come because I'm proud of him as a University of the West Indies student that have made it through the system against all odds because he would have been faced with a lot of odds. Again, because when you go to the academic side, they don't relate what Jehu is doing running at our world championships and trying to be able to get a degree at the same time. They don't appreciate that. So we have to help them to appreciate that. I can't wrong them because they come to do that and that's what their interest is. So I think the Faculty of Sport is really able to change the sort of thinking that happens in a university, ensuring that we have the competencies, but we be able to create great student athletes coming out of this environment and a whole lot more. So some of that is what I want to see as far as sports is concerned. When you look at what it is that we want for an academy, my competitive nature comes right to the fore. So I want to be the best. I think St. Augustine Academy of Sports must be the best. I think we are a little bit ahead based on the physical infrastructure we have. We are looking at 3 pillars. So the sports, falls on the spec that we currently have. And the way we deliver sports is one arm. I've spoke about some of that. We have facilities that we want to concentrate on because what we want to have is competitive facilities across the world. I talked about earlier about our international cricket pitch, that we can have games on. The way it's built, it is ready for that kind of competition. How are we going to develop the rest of the facilities to be able to do that? What are these things that we need to be in place to be competitive, to host national events, to host international events, to hold world university events. We want to be able to see that. We need to be able to build a sand pitch that we can be part of that group of sports people. It is exciting, it's new, So when we build all of these nice facilities, when we expand, because we already have some good facilities, how is this facility going to be used? Okay. And that becomes a question.
Well, we'll continue. We need to take another break.
Yes.
Viewers, you are viewing Scoreboard here on ACTN. We are talking to Grace Jackson, Director of Sports at UWI, and we'll be right back after this short break.
We, from those encounters together, and this was a North-South game to open the season.
So the team might be playing well, as we always say with Trinidad and Tobago.
Futsal did that great for me.
Okay, hey everybody. Welcome to another edition of Field of Dreams and ACTN. My name is Steve David. I'm your host.
Welcome everyone to another edition of Football 101.
Half season and things are looking gloomy for Madrid.
Is a Chelsea fan.
I only know one side of Manchester and it's red. I don't know about any blue side.
Yes, I'm an Arsenal fan. That's very unfortunate.
I love you, Messi.
Mike want to say thanks for...
No! What are you gonna do?
We bring the field directly to your home.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to another edition of Scoreboard here on ACT, and it's always a pleasure to be in your company every Tuesday evening between the hours of 8 and 9. Welcome back, viewers. Welcome back to Scoreboard on ACT. Grace, we've been talking for a while.
Yes.
And we're talking about the vision for
the academy.
The academy here. I know, would you to say you might be a little biased look more on the side of track and field because that's your love, or you're going to be a wide range of sports? But are we going to see a strong track and field program coming out of UWI?
What you introduced me as a sports director,
yes.
You didn't introduce me as a track and field director.
Right.
Okay, so for
yes, I know.
I just want to make I do have a passion for track and field. Yeah. But when you go to work and you have a passion for math and you're given computers, you have to work with the computers, right? Okay. But you find a way of using math to incorporate with computers if that's what you do.
Well, yes.
All right. So one of the things I come with experience from the Mona campus in working with all sports and creating situations. My vision is very, very deep in terms of where I'd like to see the academy. The academy being the best is one thing, but what is the content of that? We have the academic structure that we are now developing. We already have some academic programs here, but we're going to develop new ones to drive that academic agenda from the perspective of the courses that we'll be offering. We have been offering out of spec for the last maybe 10 years or so, the arts and science of coaching. We are looking at that and how we're going to set that up in a way in which we can engage more of the ordinary persons that are maybe refereeing, coaching, that that they need to get some support and knowledge in as they move forward. Because when your base is broad, you're able to deliver more at the top because your top is very small, but your base needs to be broad for you to get the best at the top. And so we are looking at that from the academic program side. I think the impacting side that we really have is what we do with the academy in terms of the labs and what we're offering and who we are engaging. And so when we are looking at that, we're looking at how, cricket I think has a great sense of stability here because we are already part of the CCC. So cricket, of course, is going to be a primary focus. My choice in terms of sports, I've chosen 3 sports as what I'd call the initial flagship sports to take off and then I work with those, which is cricket, football, and track and field. Cricket has a lot more stability, as I said. Football, we're looking at it from different areas, developing what we call the Cubs. And I digress to say that one of the things that I've brought to this is the whole concept of a mascot. You thrive in an environment when you have a mascot. And if you look on the UWI crest, you see a nice yellow lion. And I think that based on what I have learned being in Trinidad and the personalities of the students that I see, a laid-back type of personality, I need to be able to bring out the toughness in them. So I want some lion hearts. And so we are the St. Augustine Lions, and so we have to start looking at the Cubs. Those are the fledgling athletes who we would like to be able to come to this university to study anything they want to, including sport. And engineering is a big love of mine, and how we marry sports and engineering together to be able to offer something that young persons might know, what is sports engineering? And my simple answer is, when you look at the World Championships in athletics and you see that little car along, they're running along there and carrying the things back, etc. All of that are things that you can do at an engineering level. When you see the long jumpers jumping and you don't see anybody walking the pit and using a measure, but they're using something to measure, that is engineering. There are different elements of it that you can come. And so we have to educate because, as we are developing new programs, sports facilities as a major, sports architecture, they are tied in. The facilities, engineering and facilities are all tied in. What do we have to offer in the Caribbean? We have to offer sun all year round. we have to get persons engaged in what are the kind of buildings that we are building here, because when we bring the people from North America, you know, what are they sharing with us? They're sharing that half of the year you have winter and half of the year you have, you know, summer. And so how do you set up your system that you yourself, you know, can learn how to prepare? Trinidad has a different weather pattern than maybe other Caribbean countries. You have more rain at a particular time. How does that impact on the kinds of sporting facilities that you build? How do you engage external persons to come here because you have something to offer? They make choices. They go somewhere. Why not here? What are you building to engage them? The places that they go, what do they have that we can build here so they can come here? What does that affect? It affects tourism, the government involvement, your communities get, you know, built up. It's a whole new ball game. You are halfway there. How do we get you to be fully there, fully engaged in this kind of system? How do we get you fully engaged where your elite athletes become part of the process, not somebody that you like and you have given a name to a stadium, but there's not a connectivity? How do they play a role in driving that process? What is the role of the University of the West Indies, the Academy of Sport, in making those connections? How do we deliver more persons to the table? Because again, I said earlier, the more you have at the base, the better you can get at the top. How are we producing more footballers, more cricketers, more track and field athletes, more volleyballers, more hockey players? What is our role in that? What is our role with the national federations? What can we offer? National federations really is a committee, an organization that might rent somewhere. Some of them might own. But the University of the West Indies has the base. They can create the labs. We have the weight room. We have the indoor complex. What are we planning to do? Create cameras around that we can do work in analytics, right? We want to be able to analyze what is the work that we're doing with these athletes. How do we make them better? How do we make them stronger and ready for national representation? That's our role, and that's where we are going. We are setting up that structure. We want to develop a sports performance lab for which we have here, so that no longer you have to always go overseas to get the persons to come here, and then they connect with you via video conferencing, but they are here. We have the expertise here. We will bring in those extra ones that we need. And we are teaching, so we are creating a cadre of people that's going to be informing what sports will look like for the future, right? From a sports perspective. And then from a hosting perspective, I mean, I talked about getting the sand pitch. If we get the sand pitch, we're now talking about hosting World University Beach Games, World University Volleyball. There's so many activities that we can host. And then hosting engages your community. It engages your businesses, your sponsors. They become a part of that. And so you do that. And so as a catalyst to that, we're also trying to raise scholarship funds. So we are having a 5K to add to our half marathon. And the 5K is directly related to getting scholarship funds that we are trying to engage persons to come in, because your system has changed. Remember, you used to be rich. That's what I hear. Yes. So therefore,
we're so rich. Just give them 2 years again. And
yeah. So the attitude has to change in terms of what happens. We need to be able to provide scholarships so that we can get persons in the system, the talent in the system that we can nurture. We can make a difference. But there's one other area that I'd also like to capture, and that's the woman. I'd like to be able to focus, not because I'm a woman, because there is a need, right? If you look at what happens at the national level, and maybe the international level to a degree as well, the men get more money, they get more attention, and if they need to do things, it's easier for them to get it done. When you look at the women's teams, it's less likely that they can get a number of the things that they can get. And so what we would like to be able to do is to align ourselves, whether with the women's football team, the women's cricket team, the women's netball team, and be able to have some sort of impact through these sports performance labs, to be able to work, strengthen their weaknesses, strengthen their minds, help them, you know, to focus and to set their goals, you know, not just, you know, oh, it's okay if we have lost. Let them create that lion heart that is needed for every single one of them, so that when they go out there, they go out with passion, because that's what you need. The passion that drives sports is the passion that drives a people. And that is what everybody loves cricket, because you get passionate about it, and you argue and you quarrel about West Indies cricket, but it's the passion that drives it. You come back again and again. How do you drive this passion in the other sports? We have a role to play in that, and we know that.
Okay. We just have about 2 or 3 minutes. Is there anything you'd like to share with us?
Well, I mean, I am...
You have touched on basically everything.
I have. I just talked about the Scholarship 5K. I think that the Scholarship 5K, I really am looking for the support from Trinidad and Tobago. I'm looking at Tobagonians as well. I mean, when a good student comes from Tobago and comes here, they're coming out of their living environment and they're coming here. You know, Tobago has represented Trinidad very, very well. We need to be able to provide for that athlete, help that athlete to go through this process of going through school, getting that education, and preparing them for national duties. That's why we need the scholarship money. And so my plea is not only for persons to come out and participate for a sense of wellness and well-being and stuff, but for partners to come in, I mean, you know, donate whatever to help to build this scholarship program, because we're not here for just this one race. We are here for the long haul, and we're here to help as many persons as possible. We want to be able to share the vision as the role that the university can actually play in the development of sports in Trinidad and Tobago. I want to see Trinidad and Tobago not being okay with where they are, but having a distinct push and drive to be the best, and even not just the best in the Caribbean. So, you know, you beat Jamaica and you say, wow, I'm the best, and that's okay. But to be the best in the world, to be able to get noticed within the world. And I know it's not only Trinidad and Tobago students we have, but anybody that comes by, you know, through our path.
Grace, it was a pleasure. Let me wish you all the best, and I really see the passion that you have for St. Augustine, and I know that before long it's going to be a place where it's going to be bursting with activities, and we're going to be producing a lot of national players in various sports. So again, thank you very much. I welcome you again to Trinidad. I hope your stay is enjoyable, right? And I'm really looking forward maybe to come a day when you have the full program laid out, and we can assist you in any way possible.
That's right, and we invite corporate Trinidad as well as to be an extended part of our team, because wellness is not just restricted to us at the University of the West Indies, but wellness is extended to corporate Trinidad and Tobago, ensuring that their staff is well, and we have the facilities, so we want to be able to link with them as well.
Okay. Well said. Well, viewers, you have come to the end of an edition of Scoreboard here on ACTN. I was speaking to the Director of Sports at UWI, Grace Jackson, and telling us all about, well, we spoke about her career, we talked about the vision for St. Augustine, and we really want to wish her all the best and all success, because we need this sort of involvement in Trinidad and Tobago if our athletes and our students are to excel. So again, we thank you. If you miss any part of this program, there's a repeat tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m., so join us.